My name is Veronica Lee Johnson, 51 years old. Sunday dresses still smell like starch and cologne. 2 Sundays ago, just before the peach cobbler hit the table, my whole world shifted sideways. I found out that my only son, my pride, my heartbeat, had quietly handed over $200,000 of my retirement to his wife's family. Not borrowed, not discussed, just gone like a storm that forgot to knock. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I just stared at the folder I'd brought to show off my early pension plan, a blue binder with neat tabs and a gold label that read, Future Freedom. My own name blurred across the paper, the ink swimming in the tears I refused to let fall. Tell me where you're watching from, because I need somebody to hear this the way I lived it. It was a quiet kind of betrayal, the kind that doesn't slam doors or shatter plates. It lingers, like the perfume of a woman you didn't invite into your house but still smell on your pillows. I just finished praying over the food. Hands still smelled like rosemary and grease from the turkey. All Saturday I'd been cooking like Revival Sunday was coming. Sweet rolls, candied yams, stuffing from scratch. My kitchen light buzzed soft and yellow against the window, and outside, the magnolia tree was shedding its last leaves. Terrence and Vanessa had driven in from Charlotte. Whenever my boy came home, I cooked like it was a holiday with his daddy still alive and laughing in the garage. Terrence is 29, works in tech. Got that fast-talking, clean-shaven swagger that looks good in conference rooms but doesn't build calluses. Vanessa, quiet, pretty in that Instagram way, always said, "Yes, ma'am," like it was a costume she borrowed for holidays. She smiled with her mouth but counted with her eyes, like she was taking inventory of my house one lamp at a time. The air smelled of nutmeg and hot sauce. Football played low from the living room. The long table, the one James built before he passed, gleamed under the ceiling light. I was smiling as I passed the rolls down the line. Nadine was telling some story about a coworker and cheap perfume. Terrence was on his phone. Vanessa kept glancing toward the hallway where I kept the family photos. Then I started talking about Savannah, how I was finally taking that retirement trip after 7 years of saving. That's when he said it. "Oh yeah," Terrence murmured, thumb still scrolling. "About the retirement account. We had to move some of that." The room paused, 3 whole seconds of air that felt like glass. I blinked. Nadine froze mid-laugh. My voice came out thin. "What you mean? Move it." He didn't even look up. Had to reallocate it. Vanessa's parents were about to lose their house. The fork slipped from my hand. It hit the plate with a small metal cry. He spoke like he was reading a weather update. "Was just gonna sit. There anyway, right? You always say family comes first." Vanessa touched his arm like a cue in a play. My heartbeat filled my ears. The TV muted itself in shame. Even the air conditioner seemed to hold its breath. I stared at my binder, tabs color-coded, notes neat, dreams lined up in black ink. That folder was supposed to be proof I'd made it through grief and still built a future. 200,000, gone. Not stolen with a gun, but signed away with a password. He'd used old cosigner papers I left from back when he was in college. For emergencies. It was legal, but not moral. "So you emptied it," I said slowly, "for her parents." Vanessa tilted her head, voice soft as powdered sugar. "We were going to pay it back, Miss Veronica. Didn't want to stress you." Stress me? I looked at her, then at him. Terrence wouldn't meet my eyes. "That account," I whispered, "was so I wouldn't have to work the register at Dollar General when I turned 60. That was everything I built after your daddy died." He opened his mouth to explain. I raised my hand. Silence settled like dust. Turkey steam hung in the air. Sweet tea caught the light like liquid amber. No one moved. That was the moment I stopped calling them family. But that wasn't the worst part. Later that night, after the guests left, I found myself at the sink rinsing plates that still smelled like butter and betrayal. The clock tick-ticked above the door, mocking each second I'd lost. Through the window, the streetlight cut a thin beam across the yard where James used to sit with his beer and radio. Silence signed its own contract that night. Because if I'd spoken, I might have said something that couldn't be forgiven. I stacked plates, dried my hands, sat at the table again alone. Across from me, the chair Terrence sat in still had the indent of his shoulders. I kept looking at that spot like maybe the boy I raised was still there somewhere under that grown man mask. The house hummed, refrigerator buzzed. Somewhere outside, a train mourned down the track. Around midnight, I opened my binder again. The pages crinkled from the heat of my hands. Pension statements, account numbers, receipts. Everything I'd organized so carefully looked like a crime scene in black and white. I did the math. He didn't just withdraw funds. He closed it out entirely, early penalty, taxes, fees. My dreams dissolved like sugar in coffee. And still, I didn't cry, because some tears ain't worth giving to people who ain't sorry. Morning came gray and quiet. The yard was wet from dew, and the Waffle House sign down the road blinked in and out like a dying heartbeat. I sat on the porch steps, wrapped in James's old jacket, thinking about the way money and love get so entangled you can't tell which one was real. By then, I knew something in me had shifted. Not broken, shifted. You spend years teaching your child how to share, how to say thank you, how to stand on their own. You never expect to wake up one day and realize they shared you. Later that day, Terrence texted, "Love you, Ma, we'll make this right." No apology, just an empty promise that sounded like a receipt without a total. I typed back nothing, because silence was the only currency I had left to spend. That evening, I sat at the same table, the folder open, sunlight stretching across the wood. My finger traced the outline of my name on the page. Veronica L. Johnson, the only thing he hadn't signed over. Then I noticed the fork still lying on the table where it had fallen. I never picked it up, didn't have the strength to pretend nothing changed. The metal caught the light just so, and for a moment the whole house reflected back through it. Me, the walls, the ghost of a life I'd thought was secure. I don't remember much after that moment, just the sound of a chair scraping back and the silence that followed. Nobody ate, not a soul. Nadine whispered something about feeding her cat, though she never owned one. Vanessa floated out the door like smoke. Terrence tried to talk, throwing soft words that hit like stones. Temporary. Family crisis. You wouldn't understand. But my mind had already stepped outside that room. Everything I'd built just cracked clean down the middle. That night, I sat on the porch for 3 hours. Just me, the dark, and the smell of damp pine. The wind moved through the trees, whispering things I couldn't say out loud. I didn't flip on the porch lamp, didn't check my phone, just sat there with the envelope, the one that used to feel heavy with promise. It felt thin now, hollow. Every so often a car passed, headlights sliding across the porch like ghosts who didn't stop to visit. Monday morning I woke up out of habit, not hope. Made black coffee, no sugar. Couldn't stomach sweetness. Didn't touch the biscuits wrapped in foil from the day before. I just stood by the kitchen sink, watching dawn bleed across the yard. That same yard James used to mow every Saturday. The same patch where Terrence once wobbled on a red bike, shouting for me to let go. And right there, with soap still drying in the dish rack, I said it out loud to no one but the faucet and God. They really took it all. The phone didn't ring. Not once. Nadine didn't call. Terrence didn't text. My church thread was quiet. I posted a photo of the untouched turkey, golden and perfect. No caption. Not a single looks good, or save me a plate. Just digital silence, stretching like judgment. Silence as a weapon. That's what I wrote in my journal that night. The week moved like molasses. I drifted through the house half awake, half alive. Every sound felt amplified. The hallway board squeak, the living room clock tick, the low groan of the old recliner. Sometimes I turned on the dishwasher just to hear another heartbeat in the room. By Friday, I stopped checking the mail. Didn't matter, bills still came. Every time I thought of my retirement, my stomach clenched like I'd swallowed a stone. I kept that envelope on the counter, staring at it like maybe the money might climb back inside, but it never did. Sunday arrived again. I didn't go to church. Didn't have the strength to play blessed and highly favored in front of folks who'd ask me how I was and expect me to lie. Around 3 o'clock, the doorbell rang. It was Ms. Evelyn. Now, you gotta understand, Ms. Evelyn been walking sermons since before I had my first perm. Silver gray hair wrapped in a navy scarf, cane she don't really need, and eyes that see past your excuses. Smelled like peppermint oil and stern mercy. Used to be my Sunday school teacher. Now she ran the food ministry. When she showed up, it meant more than groceries. She didn't wait for an invite. Just walked right past me with a brown paper bag and that look. "Sit down," she said, like she'd caught me trying to disappear. I sat. She unpacked slow, mac and cheese. Real cheese. None of that boxed shame. Collard greens. 2 mason jars of sweet tea. Then she poured one like communion and set it in front of me. "Baby," she said, "sometimes God let them laugh so he can show you later." I blinked. "People think grace mean hush," she went on. "But grace sometimes mean you walk away with your head high while they choke on their own guilt." My throat tightened till breathing felt like confession. She leaned back, eyes soft but steady. "You ain't broken," she said. "You've been misused. But even soil gotta be turned before it can bear fruit." Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "A friend of mine got a niece over at state retirement and pension claims," she said, sipping her tea. "They flagged a suspicious withdrawal on an old co-signed file. IRS been sniffing, and you might want to make a few calls." I opened the envelope. Inside, transaction logs, letters with bank headers, a note from a tax auditor, and one small business card clipped on top. I just stared. Ms. Evelyn stood, smoothing her scarf. "You got your tears," she said. "Now get your papers." She left the tea and the spark I'd lost. That night, I didn't cry. I turned on every lamp in the house, laid out documents across the dining table wood James once varnished himself. Each page felt like proof that silence could still speak. I printed every statement Terrence ever touched, found the original co-signer form, dug out notarized paperwork from 2015, the year James passed, created a new folder, labeled it Justice. Then I called a lawyer I met 2 years back at a city council mixer. He picked up on the second ring. "Veronica? Long time." "Not long enough," I said. "I need you to look at something." By 9 p.m., we were going line by line, through every transfer, every digital signature, every IP address. The whir of my old printer kept the rhythm of my heartbeat. And then I saw it. Vanessa's father's business email, used to approve the wire. Forgery, clear as day. That was the first breath I'd taken all week that didn't hurt. I sent one email to the pension office, attached every file. Then I called Terrence. No answer. Called again. Voicemail. Third time, he picked up mid-sigh. "Ma, I'm at work," I said, calm and cold. "You might want to check your email and your tax filings. IRS got some questions." Silence stretched thin through the line. Then came the soft click of him hanging up. I set the phone down, hands steady, sipped Ms. Evelyn's tea, still warm, still sweet. Outside, the porch light flickered against wet wood. Somewhere, a cicada buzzed lazy in the humidity. I could almost hear James humming low from another room. For the first time since that Sunday, the house didn't feel empty. It felt waiting. I gathered the papers back into the folder, one by one. The last thing I slid inside was the original blue envelope, the one that once held my dreams. I tucked it behind the new manila one, like past and present shaking hands. Sometimes peace start with paperwork. I placed the folder on the counter, signed the lawyer authorization form, watched the ink dry slow beneath my name. Then I finally breathed. I didn't hear from Terrence for 6 days, not a single word. No apology, no explanation, just silence, thick as humidity before a storm. But silence don't erase what was done. Silence just lets the truth settle deeper, layer by layer, until it hardens into something you can't sweep away. And the truth was simple. They thought I was powerless. They thought 51 meant fragile. They thought my softness was weakness and my silence was surrender. They forgot I built a life from scratch with a man who started with nothing but a wrench and a prayer. They forgot I raised a child while working 2 jobs, still making it to Bible study every Wednesday night. They forgot who taught them what family meant in the first place. By the following Tuesday, I got the call. A young woman named Chantel, voice sharp, no patience for small talk, from the federal tax office. "We're moving forward with a formal inquiry," she said. "There's confirmed forgery and misrepresentation on file. You'll be listed as the complainant. We'll contact you for deposition scheduling if needed." Her tone was clipped, professional. But every syllable felt like justice, tapping on my front door. I said thank you, then sat still, hands folded in my lap, watching the light slide across the kitchen wall. And then I smiled, not the kind of smile that means joy, the kind that means realignment. Like the universe had finally turned its face back toward me. That Sunday was my niece's birthday dinner. Same restaurant in Decatur we always used. Old brick walls, blue checkered tablecloths, gospel jazz playing too loud through a dusty speaker. I wasn't planning to go. I didn't want to see familiar faces pretending not to whisper, but something in my chest said, go, just go. So I did. I showed up 15 minutes late on purpose, wore a burgundy wrap dress, gold hoop earrings, and that quiet kind of confidence that walks in before you speak. I dabbed cocoa butter on my wrists, left my grief at home, and carried only my peace and a plan. When I walked in, the air changed. Heads turned. Forks paused midair. Terrence was there. So was Vanessa, thinner, eyes darting like she was searching for an exit no one else could see. Terrence half stood, unsure whether to hug me or hide behind the dessert tray. I walked right past both of them. I kissed my niece on the cheek, handed her a small gift bag, and sat beside Ms. Evelyn, who, of course, had already fixed me a plate like she knew I'd come. "Mac and cheese still too creamy?" she whispered. I smiled. "Just right." 20 minutes passed before it happened. The manager approached, young man in a white shirt too tight around his neck. He held a small brown envelope, looked nervous. "Ms. Johnson?" I nodded once. He placed it in front of Terrence. The table went quiet except for the faint hum of the ceiling fan above us. Terrence frowned, sliding his chair back an inch. He opened the envelope. 2 papers. One, a legal notice from the IRS audit office. The other, a formal claim from the District Pension Board listing Terrence L. Johnson as the respondent responsible for fraudulent access to a federal retirement fund, with Vanessa Howard Johnson named as co-conspirator. You ever seen color drain from a man's face? It's like watching sunlight leave a room. He blinked fast. His lips moved, but the sound got stuck somewhere between guilt and disbelief. Vanessa reached for the paper, snatched it, read fast like the words might change if she caught them before they landed. I didn't move, didn't gloat, didn't breathe loud, just kept slicing my cornbread, slow and steady, like nothing sacred was happening right in front of the sweet tea. "Ma," Terrence whispered finally, "what is this?" I looked up, calm as the eye of a storm. "It's called accountability." He blinked. "Ma, you really filed this?" "I didn't file it," I said softly. "I told the truth. The rest handled itself." He shifted in his seat, chest rising like he wanted to argue. Vanessa touched his arm quick. That nervous gesture guilty people share when the light's too bright. People were watching now, phones half raised, pretending to scroll but recording every second. You could feel the buzz in the air. Curiosity, pity, admiration. I stayed still. Voice even, eyes steady. You thought I'd just pray and cry, I said. But prayer without movement is just silence. And I've been moving, quietly for weeks. Vanessa stammered. We said we'd pay you back. I tilted my head. With what? Instagram reels and a real estate dream that ain't sold a single house. Somebody at the next table snorted. Ms. Evelyn coughed into her napkin to hide a smile. The room went still again. Even the background music stopped between songs, leaving only the low buzz of the air vent and the rustle of someone folding a napkin too tight. I stood up slow, reached into my purse, pulled out the old envelope. The same one from that Sunday dinner, edges worn, corners bent, hope long gone. I placed it on the table between us. It's empty now, I said, but what you put in it next, restitution, apology, or more lies, that's on you. Terrence's mouth trembled. Vanessa looked down, fingers gripping the paper till it wrinkled. I turned to my niece, kissed her cheek again. Happy birthday, baby. May you always know the value of what's yours. Then I picked up my purse, nodded at Ms. Evelyn, and walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. The sound behind me, chairs shifting, whispers rising, a fork clattering onto a plate, that was enough. 3 weeks later, I got the call. My lawyer's voice had that satisfied weight to it. Formal proceedings underway, he said. Restitution terms approved. Terrence had tried to negotiate. Vanessa begged for settlement. Didn't matter. The IRS was already in motion. The pension board froze every shared account linked to the withdrawal. I didn't celebrate. I just brewed coffee, folded laundry, and watched sunlight move across the floor, like time doing its quiet work. Later that day, Ms. Evelyn dropped by with peach cobbler. She never knocked. Just called from the porch. You got whipped cream, or should I bring my own? We sat out there, 2 women in lawn chairs, cicadas humming like a gospel chorus, the smell of baked peaches mixed with summer rain. You feel lighter? She asked. I looked out at the yard, the grass James used to mow, the same patch where Terrence once rode that red bike, training wheels rattling. I feel seen, I said. Now, every time I check the mailbox, I find something new. A restitution check, a legal update, a small piece of my dignity returned in paper form. And every time I pass Terrence's name in my phone, I remember what trust used to feel like before it broke. They still live in Charlotte, still post pictures of brunch and beach trips, filtered smiles hiding unpaid truth. But I know what they see when they drive past this house, the same one they said I was too old to keep, the same porch that still smells like lemon oil and fried catfish on Saturdays, the same home built by a man with a wrench and a prayer, and held together by a woman they thought would never fight back. I still sit on that porch some evenings, peach cobbler warm in my hand, ceiling fan humming slow, night air, thick with jasmine. Some neighbors wave, some whisper. I just smile and sip my tea, because peace don't always roar. Sometimes it just waits, steady, earned, undeniable. They still drive past the house they said I'd never own, and every time I let the silence wave. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done?